So the next thing that we're going to do is, I think we'll do the obstacle script first. So what you're going to do is not go to the scripts folder that you made already and that you've been allocating scripts to that we make. What you need is to actually go to the standard assets folder and go into the scripts folder within the 2D folder, which is right in here. And in here is where you are going to make 3 scripts. So we'll name the 3 scripts now, but we will write in them one at a time. So the first script that you're going to make is an obstacle script. Again, right click, create C#. Call one obstacle, call another game master, and don't put any spaces in between. Always when you're writing scripts, you're doing one word and you're separating each word by capital letters. That's just the proper name. So one called game master, and then a third script called health system. Or not. So one called health system, just like so. Those are the 3 scripts that we are going to write from scratch. So once you're done naming them, let's double click on obstacle and on develop. We're going to edit. So the first thing that you're going to do is make sure that these 4 lines are the same for you. I'm not sure if a default script just has these 3 or not, but if it doesn't, just make sure that you have all these 4. The one that I added was using Unity standard assets._2D. The reason why we need to do this is because our player character controller, because it's a standardized script, and I didn't write it from scratch, Unity wrote it, and it's a standard script with a bunch of stuff that we're not going to use, but relevant. Because it is a standard 2D asset, we need to have access to the standard assets _2D namespace, right? This right here, which contains all the information for it. If we don't add this line within the obstacle script, we will not be able to access the player character controller because it's not calling its specific Unity standard assets._2D namespace. So in order to call that namespace that has all the information that we need, that we added, which was what we need for the obstacle, which is the health variables and the health functions that we added. For health, max health. If we don't have that namespace, we don't have access to those variables. So that's why we need this line in here. So right before the void start, you're just gonna add one variable, and we're gonna call it privately on the player character 2D script, and we're gonna call a script player. And in the void start method, we're going to set this player variable to be a game object, that find game object with tag, like we did prior with coins and with the game master in the player script. We're going to find a game object with a tag player. And again, same thing like I explained before. That means that Unity is going through your hierarchy and looking for an object that has that tag. In this case, our player character controller has that tag player. So we're going to look for the object with a tag player, and we're going to look within its components and look for platformer character 2D. So we're looking for the script, the player platformer character 2D script, sorry. That's what this line means. And then you're going to have a void update function that came default with your script. You can delete that, and instead you're going to be writing in this void onTriggerEnter method. Same exact method that we use within the player system. Within the player platformer. Sorry, not player platformer character 2D script. Um, and that was right here. So we called upon the collider to look for the coins and destroy them. In this case, we're gonna be comparing the tag of player because we want to check if the player is colliding with the obstacle object. So that's what this conditional means. If there is a collision with a tag of player, the player is going to take a damage of 1. And player, again, we're calling on the script. So we're having access to the script and we are looking for a method called damage. And if we go back to the platformer character 2D script, again, I will explain like I did before. Because this method is public, we have access to it in obstacle. And because we're using the Unity Standard Assets.2D namespace, we have access to the script. And we're looking at this damage function. And in the integer, like I had explained before, we're setting the damage to 1. What does that mean? It's taking 1 heart from the player's health. And then we're starting that knockback coroutine, which gives you a little bit of that negative position change within the X. And in this case, I put the duration for 0.02 seconds. That it's a very small duration that we're going to add that knockback for. And then we're adding a force of 350. And then we are changing the player's position. Every time you access transform, you're always changing the XYZ coordinates of whatever object is attached to. Excuse me. All right. And then again, like I said before, make sure that you're closing all your curly brackets. And here we have 2 because we have a conditional statement that we open, then we close, and we're closing the entire onTriggerEnter2D method. And then our last curly bracket will be closing the entire obstacle script. All right, save that. And then we're going to open up our health system script that we created inside the standards 2D scripts folder. Remember that that's extremely important. If these scripts are outside in like your regular scripts folder, none of this is going to work. All right, so let's open up that health system script. In this one, the 2 things that are important that I added was the using Unity Engine.ui. This is important because it'll give this script access to the UI canvas that we had created earlier. So if you're missing that using Unity Engine.ui line, it will not read this game object that we had made. And then again, we're using Unity Standard Assets._2D to have access again to the player character 2D script. So in this script, we're just adding 3 variables. One is a public sprite array. That's what these square brackets mean. And we're calling it heart sprites. And the reason why we're making an array, a list of sprites, which are 2D images, right, is because every time our health changes, the images of the heart system are going to change, right? So if we have 3 full hearts, we need the image that has 3 full hearts. If we have 2 hearts, we need the image that has 2 full hearts. And that's why we spliced that image of the hearts into 4, so that we could make a list of 4 images. Cool. So that's why we have an array. The second variable is a public image of heart UI, and that is going to be in our canvas what that heart's image that we had put in is. Remember, we had allocated the full hearts to the heart's image, right? So we're creating a variable that will be reading this image. And then the last variable, it's a private one. That's, again, it's going to talk to the player character scripts that has information that we are going to be accessing. In this case, the current health variable. And again, like we did before, we're going to name it player, like we did before in the obstacle scripts. Same thing. We're going to name the script player, and we're going to find the game object with the tag player to find the script attached to it as a component. And that's going to be within your void start method. And now within your void update, you're going to add this line, artui.sprite. So it's going to be looking at the image and the sprite attached to it. And then we're going to be calling the sprite array that has all the four different heart images on it. And we're going to be looking at the script of the platformer character 2D. And we're going to be looking at the current health within the script. So that's what's going to allow us to change the sprites. The sprite image is dependent on the health. And that's what this line is. And we do it in void update because, again, like I mentioned before, in update, the game updates every frame. So every frame, if there's a change, if we need anything that is constantly changing, we're always going to put it in void update. In this case, we want the engine, the Unity engine, to always look at the health to change it accordingly, whether the character is being damaged or not. And that's all that we need. Make sure that your curly brackets are all closed, and we're going to save. And then the next script, again, in standard assets script folder, right? The other one that we had written was the game master script. So let's open up the game master script, and it's very simple. Again, make sure that you have these 4 lines. I always forget the ones that are included in default, but the most important one that we need is this Unity engine.ui again, because we're going to look in this script. We're going to look at the text game object that we had attached to our health UI, right? Where I had explained to you, bring in the font, etc. That's going to hold the points when you collect the points. So make sure that you have that Unity Engine UI. And then we're just going to add 2 variables here, a public integer of points because we want whole numbers representing the points, and then a public text because that's what we called over here. We called the text, and we're going to call it points text within the script. And you're going to delete the start method that comes along with the script. We don't need it. You're just going to leave the void update method. And within void update, we're going to call on the points text that we have here, and we're going to call on the text. So that's why we put dot text. So we're calling on the text, and we're changing it to a string here in the open parentheses, a string of points colon space plus the points variable, which is going to be the whole numbers that are going to be changing when we collect the points. And again, we had made all this logic already in the character controller. In the, I think I called it the coin collect method. Let me see. Yeah, here. Not the method, sorry. We're doing it by trigger. So yeah. This is happening. When this is happening, sorry. Because we had that gm.points, we're calling on the game master script, which is this one. And we're adding points because that's the variable that we added here. +1 every time. So when it's +1, it adds on every time, right? So when you have 1, it'll add another 1, which would make it 2, and so on and so forth. And that is what's going to be reflected in here. That's why the points are going to be, the numbers are going to be increasing by 1 every time you collide with a coin. It's happening within this function, but visually it's going to be reflected within the text inside the script. Alright, so let's save. And then we just finished writing all of the programming and the code needed to execute what I showed in the beginning of the video. Alright, so I'm going to minimize it, not close it. So all we need to do now is to make sure that the objects that need these scripts have the scripts attached to them. So the scripts that we created were the health system, the obstacle, and the game master, right? So we're going to highlight that game master game object and drag the game master script to it. Once you do that, it'll be added as a component. And you should see these two tabs, a points one and points text. You can leave the points to 0 again because when you hit play and we start playing the game, the points are going to change automatically when you collide with points. So you don't need to change anything within the inspector. However, you need to allocate the points text from the UI system into the points text area here. So you're going to go to your UI, wherever your canvas is. Make sure that the game master object is highlighted so you can bring it in. And that text area we're going to bring into here. Right? And then our game master object and script is ready. The next thing that I did was what's the other thing? Oh, the spike. Not the spikes. Who has the obstacle? Aha. Here we go. So, wherever your obstacles were, your spikes or whatever it was that you have, you are going to drag the obstacle script to where you put in the trigger. So I actually created an empty game object and I called it spike trigger, and then I just moved it up and attached it to my spikes, and that's where I dragged the obstacle script to. You can just drag the obstacle script to wherever it was that you had assigned that collider, but because I assigned the collider to this spike trigger, that's where I had to allocate my obstacle. If you just have one spike and the spike has a box collider 2D, then just attach it to the obstacle script to that. But I just created one by itself. Cool. And then we don't have to bring in this the script for coins because the coins are not an obstacle and the character is actually assessing the coin collection stuff. So we don't need to attach any scripts to this. So the only script that we need to attach now is the health system, because we already attached the GM, the game master, and we already attached the obstacle. So now what I did is I attached it to the main camera, and I dragged the health system script in here, and yours is gonna look like that. It's gonna say it's gonna have heart sprites with a little arrow, and then it's going to say heart UI. So first, before we do the heart sprites, you're gonna do the heart UI, and wherever it is where your UI canvas had the hearts image, highlight camera again. That's what you're going to drag. So it was the image one. Make sure that when you click on it is the one that says image script on it. So once you know what game object it is, go to the camera where the health system script is attached, and just drag in that heart's image to the heart UI image area. And then the last thing that we need to do is to designate our list of sprites for the hearts. So you're gonna go to size, and yours is gonna say 0, so just change it to 4 and hit enter, and then it'll expand this list of 4 things. Now you do not want to order it from 3 full hearts to 3 empty hearts, not in that logical order. It's actually inverse. So the first image that you want in your list is actually if you is actually your empty hearts. So you want that to be the first image in the list. So you're gonna go find the 3 empty hearts and you're gonna drag it in like so. And then the 1 heart, you're gonna put it in the second, and then the 2 hearts, and then the 3 full hearts. Do it in that order. Hit save. And we are finally done with all the functionality that we needed. Hopefully your console doesn't have any errors in it. If you have any errors, just read them, look at what the line says, and look at the number of the line in the error, and then double click on it, double click the error message, and try to see if your error is a missing semicolon or a missing bracket, a missing parentheses, a missing curly bracket. Just make sure that you have all the syntax correctly. If the error doesn't have to do with any of that, make sure that things are spelled, that you didn't accidentally autocomplete something by hitting enter when you were typing stuff. Just make sure that the scripts are the same. I will upload the scripts to the Google Drive so that you have access to them correctly written. All right. And then with that, we should be able to go back to our game view and control save everything. And if you have all your errors all your errors cleared in the console like me, when you hit play, everything should be working correctly. So you should see points with 0. You should see 3 hearts that are full, and collide enemy, it should increase hearts, and then when you lose all the hearts, it should restart. So this one, and then when you collect the coins, it should make the sound effect and they should disappear. And then when you collide with an obstacle, it will kill you and restart again. And that was all the functionality that we added. And then the box that goes into the next level. Cool. And that was all the material for this week. If you have any questions, please email me. And one thing that I wanted to say is that if you have any code issues and errors that are happening that you cannot solve yourself, try typing in your error message in Google and see what forums say about that message. Maybe you can figure out your problem by looking online. If you still cannot fix your problem, even after looking online, what I'm going to ask you to do is to zip up your entire Unity folder. So not just your script. I won't be able to help you if you just send me your scripts or if you just send me a screenshot of the errors that you're getting on your console. So the easiest way to help you would be if you go to wherever it is that you saved your Unity folder. I think mine is called 2D Unit. I don't remember where I saved mine, so maybe let's see. 2D Unit, cool. So I have mine in Documents Game Design Module 2. Alright, so let's go there. Game Design Modules. Alright, so my Unity folder that contains everything that I'm doing is in this 2D unit. And it has all this stuff on it with the assets folder that has everything that you see inside the editor. Alright, so in order for me to help you, please take that entire folder and zip it up. And zip it up in your desktop so there's no corruption and overlays within the same space. But zip it up, and once you zip it up, send it to me by email, and if the file is too large, just share the zip with me via Google Drive. And then I can open up your entire Unity folder and cross-check between the scripts and the game objects and try to play the whole scene to see where the problem is. That's the easiest way for me to be able to help you remotely. Okay, so good luck, and I hope that you will all be able to do all these scripts and all this work without a lot of